Hello everybody, welcome back to From Rhythm to Algorithm. We continue on with our derivation. What is sensorality? What is a sensor? My rights continue to be violated. I continue to ask for a little bit of money to eat properly, to sleep properly, and to work. And so with that being said, continuing on through our steps, looking to show the direct iteration, integration of the syllability, sensorality. How is a sensor naturally defined, explicitly showing connection to an operative word, the containment, the progression of the syllables of the letters of sensorality. And so where I wanted to start, I saw something directly wrong. Again, Michelle Thaler on Star Talk with Neil deGrasse Tyson, who is again a science popularizer, who's never really done physics in his whole life. Again, nobody's really done physics in their whole life. That's the whole purpose of not knowing what physics is it's wrong, or again, it's incomplete. And so your popular science people can't say, we know physics, when you demonstrably don't. And so it doesn't matter if you went to Harvard, it doesn't matter if you're Neil deGrasse Tyson or Brian Greene or have this career, it's like, what is energy? Did you say movement potential? Nope. Well, you kind of missed everything. But getting to some very poignant steps today, but where I wanted to start was this comment on Star Talk, Michelle Thaler, again, of the people who have proven nothing, who cannot even articulate what is known about fundamental physics today, it always is impressive to me how one gets more popular in a career than the other. Right? Why is Michelle Thaler on Star Talk and not some random guy from University of Wisconsin-Madison or some random person from University of North Dakota? Because none of these people have proven anything, right? You guys are literally running around in a world where you say, we don't know what mathematics is, we don't know what analysis is, we don't know what the unification of general relativity and quantum mechanics is, right? And you can't even articulate the motivations and true scientific progressions of physics. You can talk about the history, and then you look at the equations, and you have no idea what you're even looking at. And so Michelle Thaler is on Star Talk, and she literally says, again, in this super pathetic, and it's worth commenting on the behavior, because in the same way, it's like, if you go into a discipline and somebody who's novice and they're trying to act like they know something, whether it's ill-intended or not, if they're just, trying to fit in, they immediately demonstrate behaviors that are just like not right. And that's very true amongst researchers. And so she's just immediately demonstrating all of this behavior of where she's learned the narrative, which is, again, demonstrably, they don't know what the fundamental science is, what's the unification of quantum mechanics and general relativity, they don't know what analysis is, they don't know what fluency is in linguistics. And so, like, all people can do is just, like, echo and try to articulate and not sound stupid about the parts of science they think they understand. And especially when you say stuff that's directly wrong, now that we've proven stuff, you can literally see this reaction from Chuck Nice and Neil deGrasse Tyson. Energy is movement potential. And Michelle Thaler's up there, she's like, again, in this behavior pattern that is not at research capacity. And she's like, well, of course you can, like, people will say you can't destroy mass. Mass isn't conserved. Of course you can destroy mass. You can convert it into energy. Again, mass is preserved, charge is conserved. But what she's saying is mass can be converted into energy. Because, right, that's a buzz phrase you could say right now in physics class. You get a pat on the back and it's right. But no, we've proven this infinite uniqueness. There is no one thing that is exactly the same as any other thing. The word thing is to mass. And so energy is this implied derivative quantity, this concept. How much movement potential does this thing have because it is already moving? And in that confinement of movement, the relationship of energy and vibration, those words is the confinement part. Right? Things that are confined are vibrating, and that is movement potential. And that's just a geometric or physical reality of things just being around one another. But just in general, in all of math class, when you have an equation, it is a logical statement. That little symbol equals this equals that, equals is not is, right? And so when we say PV equals nRT, right, we're saying pressure is related to volume and temperature. And it's not exact, right? It is what it is. I am only me, you are only you, this notebook is only this notebook. If you had the most perfect machine out in the universe and you tried to make the same exact atom, they're literally different things, right? You can't stack fermions on one another. Things are independent, locations are definite. It's just we're at this place of physics where it's just like you say the stupidest shit and people are like, yeah, that makes sense, to the thing that demonstrably doesn't make sense as an empirical psychological phenomenon, truly. And so she's saying energy, mass is energy. Movement potential is not a thing. Literally thing is to mass. And then we have this implied quantity, this implied concept of how much movement potential does that thing have. That is what energy is, movement potential. So you can't convert mass into energy. That doesn't make any sense. You just have mass moving, that is momentum, and that momentum tends to decrease because there's more shit around. And so she's directly saying that mass is energy, and that's not true. And again, you have the entire physical structure of people just lying. Everyone just lying. But she's doing it in a way where like she's genuinely just presenting wrong shit, and it's like she's echoing things that sound good and they're directly wrong. And then Chuck Nice and Neil deGrasse Tyson are like, ugh. You can see him like cringing. Obviously it's profound fraud, but the entire academic structure, not to say but, and the entire academic structure is doing the same thing. And she's doing it in a way where it's like, she doesn't even know what she's saying, but neither does anybody, right? E equals mc squared, mass times the velocity, that is conceptually a momentum already articulated by Newton. And so Einstein was never outside of what is mechanics, and what is not understood is what is energy, movement, potential. And so that is where I wanted to start, but any mathematical equation is not a statement of is. It is a statement of is related to. Pressure and volume are related to temperature. We'll see, like I said, it doesn't even make sense, right? An equation is derivative. You can't scale completely to the logic. And even in Newton's articulation, it was conceptualization, and then you form an equation. So my entire life, it's been such a strange thing when people are like, here's an equation. It's like, that is like the product, like the mathematical product of conceptualization of logical progression. The entirety of mathematics is derivable from linguistics. You guys don't even know what linguistics is. And so, point being, that was just what was at the front of my mind. And just all equations are not, they're not exact statements, right? Nothing physically can be anything else. Everything is unique. And then we represent that. This is that. It's not a complete statement of identity. It's a relationship. It is to this. It is related to this. It is not that completely. Moving along. So from rhythm to algorithm, we're going logically. This whole structure is logical. Right. So now we have our rigorous physical definitions: rhythm, a minimizations of steps; algorithm, linguistically directed iteration of logarithm; operative word, exponentiation. A logarithm is an exponent. And so we're going from then logically minimization to exponentiation to maximization. We're demonstrating a limit. From rhythm to algorithm is the linguistic structure left over from the derivation of speciality, all of which is one big linguistic chronology. And so we are literally going, it is what it is, linguistics to physics. And I had a clip of a bird, I might put it up there, but like this progressive, right? When you say go, 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 you'll naturally do 3 elements, 3 syllables, go, go, go. And then to like this stabilization, we have this fundamental stability of 2. Then we have this phrase, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. When in reality, it's 3 steps forward, 2 steps back, or 3 elements then stabilize into 2 elements, right? And I literally have this clip of this bird. I'll probably try to put it in here, but you can hear him, and he like beep, 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 boop, boop. So it's 3 forward and 2 back, and this progressive, and then kind of like stabilizing into 2. So you can directly hear this relationship numerically, 3 to 2, from a bird. I mean, all of these things, this is how the world works. It was kind of a cool clip, just kind of popped to my head. But linguistics, 3 syllables, to physics, 2 syllables. That's where we get our stabilized definition in fundamental ontology, fundamental physics. And so that is what we're doing overall. And again, now we have our rigorous, what we just articulated about rhythm to algorithm, those are our rigorous physical definitions. And we can't get to this finalizing, stabilizing direct iteration of sensorality unless all of the physical definitions are completely in order, because we represent them with one single linguistic differential, 1 sentence, 1 word structure, which again, we've already have an example with speciality. I probably could find it if I tried to look it up because of the timing, more so than the actual content of the emails. But there's still no point for me to look because this is a new derivation. But that's what I was saying yesterday, where I don't even have a reasonable way to like look at my own proofs. Regardless, moving along. Linguistics to physics directly stabilizing what is a sensor. What is topology to ontology? Direct iteration, again, emphasizing the elementality. Yesterday I typed the word ontology, and when I'm typing it, the word topology directly pops into my brain. Sensorality chips in. Direct iteration, censorship with the C, completely uniquely contains sensor with an S, and chip. Then we have this consensus, sentiment usage chipping in. Sensorality chips in. Chipping in is contributing. Sensorality is chipping. Natural definition, direct iteration. What is chipping to clapping? What is centering to entering? Direct iteration, again taking away the C explicitly. Sensorality enters. What is entering to entertaining? Direct iteration. What is entertainment to containment? Sensorality is entertainmentality. Natural definition, direct iteration. Sensorality maintains entertainment. Direct iteration. Is entertainment generous? What is power to generosity? Sensorality is generosity velocity. Natural definition, direct iteration. I feel like we've hit that explicitly before. Again, generosity contains energy. What is latency to entropy? Latency is ping. Natural definition, again emphasizing that fundamental syllable, ing, ping. Ping is a thing. Is censorship entropy? Is censorship disorder? What is serendipity to synchronicity? What is synchronicity to sphericality? Are spheres necessary? Again, our physical local limit of everything. Sensorality is cecerity. Natural definition, direct iteration, directly pulled from necessary. Again, that NE, there's one too many, that form. Is incessant permanent? Is appreciation appealing? Sensorality appeals. Direct iteration. Soar is rose. Natural definition, direct iteration complete. Does soreness resonate? Does soreness resolve? What is soreness to tiredness? Sensorality is sore and tired. Natural definition, direct iteration. Again, we're going step by step, but once we get to the stabilizing, unique operative word for what is sensorality, the linguistics is trivial, then we're going to look back and say, like, why did we go so slow? Again, I'm exhausting all of the logic that can be proven, that can be acknowledged, literally everything. And I genuinely don't know what sensorality is, but it's just this linguistic exhaustion you just have never seen for sure. Fundamental theorem, sensorality is sense or ality. Emphasizing the hyphens are on your screen, but it's just a word form, right? We've conceptualized, again, all of the phonetic that comes around with sensorality, and then we've identified orality as a complete word, which it is, but sense hyphen or hyphen ality is that structure, emphasizing that. And so now we add a T. Sensorality is sensortality. Natural definition, direct iteration. Sensorality sorts. Sensorality is sortability. Sensorality is the ability to sort. Natural definition, direct iteration. Sensorality is the ability to sort odor. Natural definition, direct iteration. Sensorality is the ability to sort order. Natural definition, direct iteration. Elementality-wise, order and odor should have been popping out for a while now. Again, we just have to get the right conceptual motivation to iterate the right thing. It all reduces. Sort, resort. Sensorality is resortability. Natural definition, direct iteration. What is resortability to assortment? What is resorting to defaulting? Right? You resort to this, you default to that. What is resorting to resulting? An effect is a result. Natural definition. Sensorality is a last resort. Natural definition, direct iteration. Shout out Papa Roach. Is that guy still around? It was a classic. Sensorality is a resort concert. Direct iteration, natural definition. Are concerts certified? What is certification to application? What is application to appreciation? What is application to appellation? Sensorality is elationality. Natural definition, direct iteration. What is elation to inflation? Is elation elastic? Is elastic pliable? What is elasticity to synchronicity? Sensorality appreciates dynamic. Direct iteration. Is proximity approachable? What is proximity to locality? What is proximity to vicinity? Is vicinity local? Sensorality is coachability. Natural definition, direct iteration. Is elucidation eluding? Sensorality eludes. Sensorality evades. Sensorality is evading. Natural definition, direct iteration. What is evasion to invasion? What is invasion to inclusion? Sensorality gets a clue. Get a clue. I'm sensorality. Got it. It is what it is. Direct iteration. Censorship excludes. Censorship is exclusive. Sensorality is exclusivity. Natural definition, direct iteration. What is ending to entering? Sensorality adjourns. Sensorality is adjournality. Natural definition, direct iteration. Adjournality produces the word journal. Adjourn, journal. Do journals adjourn? Direct iteration. What is adjourning to commencing? What is adjourning to adjusting? Justice is appreciated. Is justice required? Is relevance appealing? Is appreciation apparent? Obvious is apparent. Natural definition. Is apparent discrete? And if something is obvious, is that an intuitive acknowledgement of discreteness? If you can discern something because it's discrete, is that obviosity? What is discretion to accumulation? Is reliability versatile? Is containment reducible? Reliability is consistent. Liability is inconsistent. Kind of that natural negation of the word forms. We have that prefix reliability, then we go to liability, then we have consistent, and then we go to inconsistent. Inconsistency is risky. Is entropy risky? Sensorality risks it. Direct iteration. Is frisky risky? Direct iteration. What is elasticity to fluidity? What is fluidity to flexibility? Sensorality is reflexibility. Natural definition, direct iteration. What is syllability to flexibility? Are syllables flexible? Are syllables reflexive? Right, like reflexibility. It's not technically a word, but in that progression, it conceptualizes and it gets contained, and you can feel it, and there's no like debating what this is. That's what we're getting to with sensorality, emphasizing on the reduction of speciality. It's more of this pulling back to this radial symmetry, where you have to extend back out again, and it's this reduction process, this limitation where you force us out of bounds and get this definition at the fundamental physical level, which is the definite complete part. What is reflex to context? Is font contextual? Elasticity is flexibility. Natural definition. Is context flexible? Fundamental theorem, flexible is workable. Natural definition, again, flexible has a physical implication there, workable, more logic, so we just call it a fundamental theorem. Is liability risky? Is flexible reliable? What is flexibility to deformability? Sensorality is deformable. Sensorality is deformation. Natural definition, direct iteration. What is deformation to information? What is deformation to definition? Is elasticity dynamic? What is elasticity to synchronicity? I feel like we had that one like literally in this episode. But we do, like I said, there is redundancy on some of it. I tend to have maybe. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. Again, I just try to avoid any redundancy. I'm sure there's some to the derivation of speciality, the actual pairs. I'm sure there's a lot. Just pointing anything out. Is synchronicity rhythmic? Is generosity graceful? Sensorality is the pace of grace. Natural definition, direct iteration. Is grace smooth? Is generosity graceful? Just said that again, repeat it a little bit. Sensorality appreciates grace, direct iteration. What is grace to peace? Peace is easy. Natural definition, direct iteration. A fraction is a piece. Natural definition. Are fractions distractions? Sensorality is a fraction of friction. Natural definition, direct iteration. What is friction to fruition? Sensorality bears fruit, direct iteration. Is fruit moot? Does moot move? Direct iteration. Is movement moot? What is movement to improvement? Direct iteration. Oh, still going. Yeah, no, we get to big theorems here in a second. Sensorality improves proof. Direct iteration. Like literally, that's what sensorality is doing, is improving the provability of the entire logical structure that exists. Speciality is complete. Like speciality, special with an ITY, natural tendency to differentiate for sexual antagonism, establishes the first linguistic chronological complete axiomatic proof. And now sensorality improves that. Nice. Is proof proven? Is proof moot? Is trivial moot? Sensorality is live. Natural definition, direct iteration. Does live vibe? Direct iteration. Live is relevant. Is life live? Direct iteration. Does love live? Is love alive? Sensorality loves. Sensorality keeps the love alive. Direct iteration. What is love to desire? What is desire to duress? What is inflation to tension? Does tension increase density? So that's what we were talking about last time, again, this relationship of tension and energy, but then specifically moving to tension and density was, again, mass per unit volume. If I tense up, I just think that proportionality is conserved. And then conversely, does inflation increase or decrease density? Right? What is inflation to tension? Does tension increase density? Does inflation decrease density? I just think it's preserved. And then we have that immediate intuition. You put a dot on a balloon and then you inflate it, because that's the fundamental empirical assignment of inflation to a physical process, is inflating a balloon. And so that's direct. Moving along. Sensorality preserves proportionality. What is personality to proportionality? Sensorality is preferable. Sensorality is preferability. Natural definition, direct iteration. Preferring likes, direct iteration. So truly logically, when we say PV equals nRT, an equation is a statement of like. Right? Pressure is like volume and temperature. Right? Or pressure and volume are like temperature times this constant, times this amount of moles. Right? It's a similarity, it's a likeness bias, is what I introduced it as originally logically. But in an equation, this is related to. This is not is completely. Yeah. Sensorality is preferentiality. Natural definition, direct iteration. What is appreciation to preference? What is preferentiality to consequentiality? Is reference sequential? This conceptual progress is chronological. Is reference sequential? Yes. But these questions still, they're just showing linguistic and logical consistency. And so they're not definitive. So you could say this, I could say this, they could both have reasonability to them and it'd just be like not definite. We're getting to a definition. Sensorality is a special sequence. Natural definition, direct iteration. Is speciality sequential? Is speciation sequential? Sensorality speciates. Direct iteration, speciality sensorates. Direct iteration. Again, the direct linguistic conceptual differentiation has to be from speciality because that is the proven correct linguistic representation of the chronologically dependent, time-dependent evolution of culture. And so that's a pretty big hard stop of where, again, where do we start conceptually linguistically? Speciality is special with an ITY. Speciality, the natural tendency to differentiate for sexual antagonism, has to be directly related to that immediately. Sensor, and that extension has to be minimalistic. It has to be optimal. We just added OD to sensorality to get sensodorality. It has to be some well-motivated, complete syllability extension or modification to speciality. We just have to get the syllables in the right order overall, ask the right question. This is all just the analytics, this realization process, not the final result. Speciality is sensoration. Natural definition, direct iteration. Fundamental theorem of physics, vibration is potential movement. So now we get a clear differentiation. What is energy to vibration? And again, sensorality is vibration. Vibration is the logical linguistic representation. The conceptual basis, everything gets rooted back to vibration, right? Good vibes only, right? With the explicit physical confinement, the reason this thing is vibrating is because it's movement potential that is confined. And so vibration is potential movement, emphasizing the order of the words, again, changes the logic. There is no mutual exclusivity, chronology exists, infinite uniqueness exists, order matters. And so some nuance to this, but you should feel it if you're following along. Vibration is potential movement, energy is movement potential. And now fundamental theorem of logic, introducing the syllability, the actual linguistic representation of sensorality. Sensorality differentiates energy and vibration. Vibration, potential movement, energy, movement potential. So now we have a direct, complete physical description that we're differentiating, and we've introduced the syllability consistently. And so that's the fundamental theorem of logic. Sensorality is the exponentiation of steps. Natural definition, direct iteration. From rhythm, the minimization of steps. But now again, we're just containing everything. So now we're saying it's the exponentiation of steps. Logically, complication. Sensorality complicates. Sensorality is complicationality. Natural definition, direct iteration. Is complication simple? In another seemingly kind of like, it's a direct contradiction, but we're pairing this logical, there is no logical paradox, but there's this preserved chirality, this inversion linguistically. And so we have to have this conceptual progress directly paired to linguistics, in which we switch the order, because it's still that linear representation where the chiral nature is already preserved in the shape of the letter, and that's already solidified and, reduced and consolidated by the whole species. I didn't invent the Roman alphabet, right? But there's just this irreducibility physically represented in linguistic structure, all of it. And so we have to pair that to logic, which you can't, there's no contradiction, there's no paradox. But is complication simple seems like a contradictory kind of question. But that's what we're doing. We explicitly, again, where you can watch each one of these episodes kind of independently. You might have to know some things, but they're really pretty much self-contained. Regardless, my rights continue to be violated. Again, we just have to work through this well-defined process of analysis. You can't speed it up. There's 0% difficulty. Vibration and energy, that big differentiation was huge. Because now we have this linguistic representation, again, from rhythm to algorithm. We're kind of resolving this whole structure, right? This is something to develop to prove things. And we've proven everything that you can prove, or that can be proven, by exhausting the entire linguistic structure that's available. So that's proving everything, demonstrating the entire, comprehensively, not just saying, here's what is mathematics, here's the whole fucking thing. Syllable by syllable, directly in order. Can't emphasize enough, I've already done so. It's already been well established since 2017 for sure. And so, well, the complete reduction, again, I put it on 2019 or 18, whatever. It doesn't matter. My rights continue to be violated. My life quality is legitimately zero. I continue to ask for a little bit of money to eat properly, to sleep properly, and to work. No one cares. That is what I have for right now. Thank you for watching. See you on the next one.